Today, I'm excited to welcome someone who's changing the way entrepreneurs think about being a podcast guest. Lindsay Phillips is the CEO of Smooth Business Podcasting, and she helps business owners turn their podcast appearances. Let me rephrase that, or not rephrase it, say that again. She helps business owners turn their podcast appearances into conversations that convert, interviews that actually drive visibility, leads, and clients. Instead of leaving everything up to the host, Lindsay teaches guests how to take back control, show up strategically, and repurpose each interview like a true podcast launch. So, if you've ever wondered why a great conversation didn't lead to real results, she's the one who can fix that. And all of you listening, if you've been on this podcast before, on mine, and you have not used that podcast, clips from it, whatever you want to do to your benefit, it's never too late. It's never too late. So how you doing, Lindsay?
I'm doing awesome. So glad to chat with you today. I know we're getting to know each other in the green room, and so I know this is going to be a fun chat.
I think we've been trying to connect, I want to say since June or something. I know it's
It's
been a
been a
while.
while, and then I don't know, I something happened or in my family or I can't remember what, but
And then
yeah,
I
we had to
think I had
postpone
something
it.
happen
So
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're finally here.
It's been back and forth. All right, I want to jump in. I just want to ask one question, and then I just want you to take control of everything. You've said guests need to treat an interview like a podcast launch.
Mhm.
What exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, the industry I find as well, is so focused on podcasting in respects to the host,
Mhm.
launching it and sponsorships, monetizing, how do you grow the show? Like there's so much focus on the host.
Right.
And when you think about a podcast launch, you're like, "Oh man, I know there's so many moving pieces. I can't do it on my own. I want to do it right." There's companies that are dedicated to doing just that.
Mhm.
But then on the guesting side, you see out there information about get booked on shows or
Right.
how to get booked on shows or your pitch or your one sheet, and that's it.
Mhm.
So and then so what's happening is guests are, "Oh, I'll just show up and share a bunch of tips. I'll get exposure, and that's magically gonna bring me results."
Hmm.
Or they're relying on the host to do all the heavy lifting,
Right.
to promote, to share, I'm tapping into their audience, but they don't realize, again, that they can take control over that. They can be strategic for every little piece of the podcast guesting strategy. And so they don't really think about it or break it down into the before, your
Right.
foundation, the conversation, the what you do afterwards, collaborating, repurposing. Like there's so many moving pieces. And if you optimize and are strategic about all of those pieces, like imagine the results that you could get.
Oh yeah. Well, and with that being said, because and you see this a lot, guests will get on, I mean, a ton of podcasts. And one of the things I don't like, and I want to get your take on this. And you'll see where the guest will submit questions that they're ready to answer. But if you keep doing that on every podcast, it's like listening to a record on repeat. So, what's your take on that? Because I mean, I personally don't like that. I'd rather come up with my own questions, and I want the
Mm.
open ended questions to where it's the guest. And I've said this a million times. Yes, it's called Conversations with Rich Bennet, but it's not my show. It's the guest show. It belongs to them.
Yeah. So there's a couple things to address in that.
Mhm.
And I hear it all the time, Rich. So you're not the only one thinking it. Um, where do I start? So let's think about it. I know I've so many opinions. So I'm going to look at it from first the host perspective. And I'm a host of my own show, the Leverage Your
Mhm.
Podcast show. And so I tell the guests and prompt them in my form to give me questions. And from a
Okay.
host perspective, like, I don't know your expertise inside out. You do. And so I don't want to do you a disservice and ask questions that don't necessarily highlight your expertise. And I also want to make sure that the listeners get the most value.
Right.
And so for me, when I get questions, then I'm like, perfect. I'm not gonna like rhyme them off as a script. I'm not gonna question number two. Like,
Mhm.
we're just not built that way, right? You can still have an organic conversation, but it helps me position them and but also give value. So
Okay.
that's one perspective. The other perspective is from, the guest. So me as a guest, if I remember correctly, I gave you, interview questions. I can't recall right now. I hope I did. But
No, actually, no, you gave me
oh, you
the
know why? Because I looked at the format of your show, but that's okay.
yeah, it's
I'm a pro, so I can go any
natural
which way.
conversation.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but generally speaking, right, again, let's say, for an example, that you looked on my website and you
Mhm.
see that I do repurposing, that I do coaching, that I mean, I do work with hosts as well, but
Right.
predominantly guests. So what would happen if you started asking me questions about all of the above? What happens is the listener gets confused
Yeah.
because there's too many things going on. The episode isn't solving a problem, and then when the episode goes live, the title it's hard to even give it a title, to be quite honest, because it's about all the things
Jumping
about
everywhere.
podcast guesting, and
Yeah.
then it's a generic title, and then it's not gonna hook a listener. So, from many different angles, if I'm giving you all of these questions that guide the conversation, not a script, then it'll compel the listener to listen
Mhm.
and then give them value, but in a way that they can process the information and then showcase the guest as a host. So I call these interview questions the interview GPS. It's kind of like your conversation compass,
Right.
right? So you're not driving around trying to get from A to B without a map.
Mhm.
There's an actual method and a strategy and a structure. I still have organic conversations, like,
Right.
it's never gonna be we're human, there's back and forth.
And it
So I'm
should
not
be.
yeah, and so it's not gonna sound like I'm on a stage, you know, giving a speech,
Right.
it's just not gonna sound that way.
It's not a journalist talking to you.
No, exactly, I'm not on a soapbox.
Yeah.
But here's the other angle of it, and that is the part where the guest thinks, "Oh, if I'm giving the same talk on every single podcast, I shouldn't promote it because it's the same thing over and over and over again."
Uh,
But if you wanna be known for one thing, even if it's 2,
mhm.
you have to repeat your tips, your frameworks, your strategies, and talking about the same pain over and over again, because that's what's going to get you known as an authority in your space.
Right.
That's how you're going to hook your avatar, your prospect. Uh, You have to do the repetition.
I also think it's up to the host to because granted, yes, when they do send me the questions, I look at them and I'll even keep them on my what I call my cheat sheet as questions
Yeah.
are ready to answer, but it gives me an idea. The other
Yes.
thing that I like to do with it, and it all depends on how the conversation's going. Of course,
Mhm.
doing the research, looking at their website, listening to past episodes, it gives me as the host an idea of questions that they've never been asked. However, it could either help build the brand of their business or the brand of themselves as well. Because, I mean, let's face it, every business has a face. And
Mhm.
if people know that person, they're gonna, believe in the business
Yeah.
more and more. So I do think you do see some hosts will not do that. They'll just take those questions and go right
Yeah.
down.
That
And
feels so stiff.
yes. Yeah. I just don't get it. Um, the other thing I do like to do sometimes, again, it all depends on the guests who I have. Like if I have somebody on about addiction, I'm going to ask them beforehand if there's anything that they don't want to talk about. And I
Yeah,
think that's
fair
very
enough.
important. Be-
Agreed. And that's just a different angle too, right?
yeah.
It's more story based
Mhm.
and yeah, just sharing their journey and their story. That's different than business where people are more expecting some takeaways. And everyone listens to podcasts for different reasons,
Yeah.
right? Some people I listen to podcasts, not the stories. I listen to podcasts to get like actionable tips. That's just me. Everybody is different and every
Mhm.
podcast is different.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm the same way. And I listen to oh my god, all kind different types of podcasts. I mean, that's just when you're in the field, you do. And I'm
Yeah,
sorry if you're a podcast host and you're not listening to podcasts. Why are you podcasting? It's just, that's just me.
yeah.
So when did you actually realize that a lot of guests were actually leaving opportunities and especially money on the
Mhm.
table?
100%. It didn't really click for me. Like I was frustrated with my own experiences um on being asked completely random questions and I'm like, "Ooh, that has nothing to do with my expertise." And
Mhm.
then by the end of the conversation, I was just frustrated going, "Okay, well, that was a great interview, but it doesn't showcase me as an expert and it's not really helping the listener with my knowledge and what I know."
Right.
So sometimes I personally was frustrated and then I'm like, how is even the audience going to understand how I can support them in their business? They're not
Mhm.
because the conversation was like all over the place. The other piece was because I do repurposing.
Mhm.
I was creating reels and content for clients that are guesting on shows. And like I onboard, I knew what her expertise was. I knew like how she helped her clients. And as I was listening to these episodes and trying to pull out reels and trying to even create titles for the episodes, I was like, the conversation, like it's about imposter syndrome and it's about tech startups and it's about this. And I'm just like, I don't even know what to name it because it's all over the place. Like, there's not one focus. So I was
Right.
like, this is kind of frustrating. And so I was having a hard time repurposing the content. And then I was like, "Oh, how come you don't talk about this?" Like your
Mhm.
I forget what they were, but like exercises that she does and like what she uses to serve her clients. I was like, "Oh, you don't talk about this and you don't talk
Interesting.
about that." I'm like, "That's so unique to you
Yeah.
and like what makes you like get results for your clients." And she's like, "Well, oh, they don't ask or it never comes up." And I'm like, "Hmm." So I'm like, there's gotta be a way to change this.
Mhm.
And so that's when I was like, no, you need a specific, I call it billboard ready topic because your topic is your billboard
Right.
to get you hooked, booked, and heard, right? It piques the host to book you and it piques the listener because often that ends up being the title of the episode. And so we created specific topics that were I call it the bridge to profit. It was the
Ooh.
conversation is the bridge between the audience's pain and your offer. So the conversation has to be something specific.
Right.
So I can't think of a title right now, but like instead of like for me, my topic was like how content marketing can grow your business. I'm like, how boring is that? It's so generic.
Yeah.
right? And honestly, I wasn't getting booked on shows. I even booked a podcast booking agency. And so I learned the hard way that you had to be more specific. So I
Mhm.
changed my topic. Again, I don't remember it exactly, but it was like 3 social media strategies that will get you leads and clients without overwhelm. So
Mm.
it and then the audience knows what's in it for them. So anyway, so I created the topics and then I created the interview GPS and specific interview questions for that specific topic. So it guides the host to talk about it in a certain way.
Right.
And then we mapped out her talking points so that she could talk about what she did in a way that wasn't salesy, but the audience understood how she helped and worked with her clients. And so much more impactful and made her stand apart from any other leadership coach that was out there
Mhm.
because she was talking about it in a different way. And so the way you have the conversation and guide that conversation is so different and more intentional with your offers in mind and the audience's pain in mind. Because the audience has to be like, what's in it for me, right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Alright, so with that, because and you're right, the host will just keep going and we're gonna ask the right questions. And when you said the exercise part, I'm just shocked that she wasn't able to talk about that. And I do believe that the guest needs to how can I say this? Um, take control without hijacking the show. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So how does a
Yeah.
guest actually do that without, excuse my language, but without pissing the host off?
Totally. I
'Cause
know.
because and that's the thing. Let's face it, there are hosts out there that it's all about them. And it's the host that has that power to hit publish and publish that episode. So how does one go about doing that without pissing the
Yeah,
host off?
I know, without being totally rude.
Yeah.
Because it is awkward. There's a couple of
Uh,
ways. Yeah. So in the interview questions, as an example, let's say one of the interview questions was, what are the top 3 reasons that guests or what are the top 3 reasons that guests leave money on the table when they're doing their interviews?
mhm.
You know then that there are 3. So I'm talking about one of the mistakes, blah, blah, blah. You as a human, we don't like leaving open loops.
Right.
So there's 2 others that I'm going to share. You're less likely to go rogue and ask random questions because you don't want to leave your audience hanging
Mhm.
and not hearing the other 2. So it's kind of using that our human nature and just phrasing the question in a way that the host will they just won't go off on tangents. They'll keep it on track because they don't wanna sabotage the episode and the listeners.
Right.
So that's one trick. The other one is I call them redirection statements for lack of better terms, but it's giving these statements where that's a great question. I've done that before. Let me just backtrack a little bit to give your audience an overview so that they really understand the why.
Yeah.
So you're acknowledging it, right? But you're just
Mhm.
saying, I just need to let's go back to this for a minute because otherwise your audience won't understand the next thing I say.
Okay.
So if you have all these like redirection statements in your back pocket, it's super easy and it just feels natural.
That's smart. That's smart. And the other because granted that has happened to me before. I tend to see squirrels sometimes. Uh, but I mean, I'll be talking, and especially if I have one of my co-hosts who also sees squirrels, it can go every which way. But I love that when the guest has, I want to say would you call it the back pocket?
Yeah, like your redirection
Yeah,
statements in your
redirection
back
statement.
pocket. Yeah.
I love that, and one of my favorite things that a guest has done, several guests have done with me is, "Do you mind if I share a story with you? Do you
Yep,
mind if I" Yeah, that's why you're here. Please
I
do it.
know.
Please
Yes.
do it. And but there's a lot of guests that don't know how to do that,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
need you.
And it's just a matter of a few little tricks or a few little statements,
Yeah,
and when you know your the interview questions ahead of time, when you know what your talking points are, you have the conversation structured in your head into little bite-sized chunks, so it's easy to have that prompt to know what to say.
right.
So you're always going to be clear versus winging it, and you're gonna
Mhm.
sound much more confident in the conversation, which really helps.
Do you feel, and I've said this a lot, I do believe that podcasting is the new way of networking. Do
Yes.
you feel like a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, for some reason, don't see that?
I think part of it is they're scared of it,
Yeah.
and I was too, in all honesty. I've done God knows how many interviews, and
Mhm.
I'd be like, "Okay, great, bye," because you're like, "Oh, the green room conversation just feels so weird and awkward. So
Right.
how can I support you in your business?" It's like, "Oh, can you refer me?" Like, how we just don't know how to approach the situation in a
Right.
way that feels normal. But part of it is also being strategic about who's on your show
Yes.
so that and again, it depends on the goal for your show, but if you are strategic about who you have on, there's naturally going to be some alignment. And so
Mhm.
I always like the chit chat before
Yes.
so that you get to know each other. Oh, I happen to see you're doing this. Oh my gosh, do you have a couple minutes to tell me about it? And then so that you're asking them questions to hear more about their business and what's going on and who they serve and blah, blah, blah. And then, maybe after in the green room, you can have just a natural conversation. Hey, I was thinking about that program that you did. I think that would be really useful for this person I know.
Mm.
And also just think of like what is one way that you can help them? Is there someone that you can introduce them to? Is there another show that that
Yes.
you've been on? Because they're naturally going to want to reciprocate and you'll make a bigger impact if you're serving versus what can I get?
Yeah. I see that with authors a lot. I mean, I talk to a
Interesting.
lot of authors, and I always tell them, "You need to get on what I like to call the podcast circuit and guest on all these
Oh,
different
yeah, yeah.
podcasts and promote your book. Don't
100%.
focus on just one area."
Yeah.
And I've seen a couple of people I suggested that to do it, and now especially one guy that's local here, Damien. I told him, I said, "Dude, you need to get on other podcasts, tell your story, promote your book." Now
Yeah.
he's writing his second book. Now I think he just started his own podcast as well,
Oh, cool.
but he's out there, he's doing everything. He bought the equipment so he could do it virtually,
Yeah.
and it's making a difference.
It
It's
does.
making a big difference.
And really, like, when people are having a conversation with us, even if they're new to your podcast or
Mhm.
not, they feel like they're getting to know us as people. And
Yeah.
especially, I love the video part of podcasts because you can see their facial expressions,
Mhm.
their movements. And so you get that know, like, and trust factor so much faster.
Yeah.
And because I'm on your show, people feel like I've been vetted. And so they're more likely to trust me
Mhm.
and you just elevate that level of credibility again that much faster than reaching someone out of the blue on LinkedIn.
And the other thing, and we talked about this in the green room, it's a lot of hosts will have you back on again.
Yeah.
Because, well, let's face it, if you're a business owner, business has changed throughout the years.
Mhm.
I mean, I look at, I'm going to say roofers. It used to be, let's say 30 years ago, they were just putting the shingles on and gutters. Now they're doing solar shingles. Well, you need to go back on. You need to talk about that.
Yes.
Things change throughout the years. Look how technology has changed
Oh my
alone.
god. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah. I mean, you need to get out there and do it. Now, with the repurposing part, and this is again, this is where businesses need to come to you because you'll hear a lot of business owners, or let's just say businesses in general, they will not have somebody on hand to do that personal stuff to repurpose
Yeah.
episodes, whether new or old that they've been on. Um, Explain how important it is, even let's say like this episode right now that we're recording, how important it is to repurpose this. But let's say you were on 10 years ago
Mm.
and how important it is still.
As long as your content is evergreen and you're still like, let's say I change my business tomorrow and
Mhm.
I'm doing Facebook ads. Like, I wouldn't, God. But let's just say, then I wouldn't wanna repurpose those interviews again because it wouldn't do my business any service because I'm not doing that service anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you wanna make sure that you're thinking about the content strategically. Will it will it attract clients for the offers that I'm doing now? But a really cool tip is 100% you can repurpose any of the podcast episodes that you've done in the past, even if it's a few years ago, as long
Mhm.
you're still doing that business and it's still viable. Um, but I've even for my clients repurposed a past episode that we've already pushed and promoted out there, but I've looked at it through a different lens and I took out different clips and different quotes
Mhm.
in order to help them promote a webinar they were doing.
Smart.
So then they didn't have to create new content. They
Right.
already had stuff that was that topic. I just positioned it differently when I did the reels and the quotes and what have you to help promote that webinar, summit, whatever the heck it is. So looking at it that you can use it so many different ways. You've got a new lead magnet
Mhm.
and you've got a back episode that relates to that topic. Use those reels to showcase your new lead magnet that you have out there.
When it comes to the repurposing part, do you find with any of your guests that they have a hard time getting the files from the host because the host will, there are a lot of hosts out there. They're like, well, no, you're not getting the content because it's not going to give me downloads. Whereas me, if somebody asks for the files, I'm excited. First of all, it's like,
Same.
oh my God, yes, take them, do whatever you want with it. I don't worry about downloads.
No.
I'm worried about you and your business and building it up. So if a guest approaches a host for that, what's the best way? Because yeah, you don't there are some hosts out there that are just I'm gonna say
Protective over
yeah,
their
all right,
content.
okay,
Yeah.
protective is a better word than Nimrods. Okay. So, I'm sorry they are. But what's the best way for the guests to go about getting them?
I
Besides
tell
just asking, of
Yeah.
course.
I tell my clients, and I do it all the time, I ask for the raw video.
Mhm.
And I say, because I would love to give your podcast more exposure. I put the video in my YouTube because everyone searches on YouTube. I put it on my blog, which of course showcases my authority when people are going to
Mhm.
my website. And I will create some extra reels. And I put the podcast art on the reels so that it shows that I'm guesting on that podcast. A, for the podcast host, but B, for me. Hey,
Mhm.
look, I was on a show. So it showcases my authority. Um, but yeah, and I want to be in control over how I'm being showcased
Right.
because let me share a couple of little nightmare moments from the
Okay.
past. So I've obviously guested on many a podcast, and one of them came back. It went live, but they on their show page, it just had my bio and like that's it. So it had no show notes. It didn't have any bullets of like what they could learn. So there was like no hook for the listener to like want to listen. So I'm like, "Aw."
No main
Or
topics, resources, or anything?
nothing.
Wow.
I know. I was like, "Dang." And so I'm like, "I'm making my own show notes." So I did.
Yeah.
And that's how I kinda got into just I'm just doing it myself. And then the title was, like, some funny spin on my name. So, again, the title, no one's gonna know how they're gonna benefit from the episode or what it's about. So,
Right.
how am I even gonna get listeners for that? So, I'm like, "Nope, I'm gonna do the SEO research, and I'm going to make my own title, make my own branded image." And then the worst was, like, again, we're cracking jokes. There's like, you have some amusing moments in the
Mhm.
episode, and that's fine. But he made a clip of some little outtake funny moment, and that was the clip he used to share the episode. I'm like,
Which
that has nothing to do with what I do. It is not serving the audience in any way. And I'm like, I'm not sharing that. And so that's why I want the raw video so I can pick the clips
yeah.
that serve the audience to give them a tip, but showcases my authority and positions me as an expert. Yeah, so there's just been,
Wow.
like I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, "I know. What the hell?"
The thing is too, well, apparently, and granted, it took me a while to realize this as a podcaster, but those show notes and the transcripts and everything, it's going to help your show. It's
Yeah,
going to help the host show get up in the charts.
yeah,
What are they
keywords, your
thinking?
blog, I don't
Yes.
know. I've seen it more often than you can imagine, to be honest.
And it's not that hard to come
No,
up with a
not with
title,
AI, my
especially nowadays.
god.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now, and actually, I'm glad you mentioned with the title part. How important is it to have the guest name in the title of the episode?
I I mean, I guess it depends what point of view you're looking at.
Mhm.
For me, I from the listener perspective, sorry, I'm getting all jumbled up here. From the listener's perspective, they wanna know what is it about,
Right.
right? How is it gonna help me? But I know when I'm searching for a show that like Joe Smith was
Mhm.
on the Millionaire Maker podcast, I don't remember what the title is. So when
I'm
I'm s
searching for the name.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
I'm searching for the name.
Mhm.
And actually, when you search, again, Joe Smith on podcasts or you're in listen notes or whatever, where it's like, I want to watch that person talk about whatever on this, you can't find it because it's not searchable.
Right.
And so if your name is not in the episode title, it's harder for it to be found.
Yeah.
I mean, not that you're using the person's name as like a keyword for SEOing the blog post, but, um, I think it's important. I know what I want
Yeah.
my name on it,
Well,
right? As a
I
guest?
I find even as a host, and granted, for years when I started, I wasn't doing that. I mean, I was learning still, but
Same.
I do it now. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, this may not be the title, but I think it would be important, to have it like Lindsay Phillips teaches how, or,
Yeah.
explains how to be the perfect guest on a show or podcast or whatever. But I think the name is important to have out there because let's face it, again, it's with the branding. You're
Yeah.
building your brand. Your name, your face is your brand. With the video part, what as far as repurposing, what about if the podcast is strictly audio?
Not many people do that anymore. I I've only ever been on one podcast where it was just audio in the
Okay.
past 2 years.
Okay.
Would I go on a show that was only audio? Yes, I would, but it does make it awkward to repurpose because I'm like, I want to put it in YouTube. I want to make the reels. It's videos,
Right.
clips that are you're able to use in Instagram and shorts and what
Mhm.
have you to get in front of more people that aren't already following you. Um, I think it's crazy when people don't use the video. I just
What
don't get it.
like with me right now, the only time I do video is like this, if we're recording virtually. Only
Yeah.
because when I record in person, well, there's no internet where we record there. And I don't have all the camera set up
Yeah.
yet.
It's different.
Yet. Plus, I have a tendency to break cameras. I only have a face for audio. But again, this, like you said, with the reels and everything, this is what I use. What we're
Yeah.
doing right here,
Yeah.
this is what I use, and it does make a difference. Will people always go to the podcast episode? No. Is your message getting out there? Yes. And that's
Yes.
the important thing.
Yes. And to me, I'm like, I like seeing people's faces.
Yes.
I prefer actually, I'm weird this way. I prefer to watch the video than listen with earbuds.
Mhm.
I don't know. I like to see the human interaction. I like to see smiles on their face, their personality. I just prefer that. And if you're not putting videos in YouTube, you are missing out on so many more listeners and
Yeah.
watchers and people that are coming into your world.
Oh, yeah. I know. I gotta get back into doing that. I need an assistant.
Don't we all?
It's crazy. I mean, I'm doing the TikTok. I do the TikTok Reels, the Facebook is
Yeah.
Facebook Reels and Instagram Reels the same
Yeah,
thing?
pretty
Even
much
though
the
it's
same,
2
yeah.
different platforms, but,
Yeah.
and I was doing the YouTube Shorts for a bit. I need to get back to doing them. One of the things, this is one of my plans for 2026, and Lindsay, if I don't do it, you're the only person I've told this to so far. You have permission to fly down from Toronto and
And
fly to
smack you upside the
Baltimore,
head.
smack me upside the head, put a boot up my tail, whatever. Even if it's just like what we're doing here, there's no reason why I can't put that full episode on YouTube. And
Mhm.
that's one of the things I'm going to start doing in 2026 with these.
You
The
just have
ones
to
that
add it to your
person
process.
Yes. Yeah. I know. It's funny. I told my wife the other day, I said, I don't know how I keep falling behind. I'm working more now than when I was selling cars. And back then I was working 60 to 80 hours a week.
Ooh.
But I found myself working 7 days a week between doing the podcast and my good news website. And I told her, I said, I need to structure everything better. I need
Yeah.
to, on my calendar, I have the only thing on my calendar is my recordings. That's it. I need to start putting, all right, take a time here
Time
for
blocks.
editing. Yes.
That's what I do.
I, yell at me then. If you don't see it, if you don't see it in 2026,
Alrighty.
you give me
I'll
a
crack my whip.
yes, give me a hard time because it definitely needs to be done. Um, God, I'm getting myself in trouble already, aren't I? So with all the actually, how come you don't? Because you work with guests and host, but
Mm.
you don't have an agency where you're getting guests booked though, right?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Nor do I want to. I
Okay,
know.
never mind.
Yeah. Um, I don't know why I don't want to. I just feel really strong about it. I feel like it's its own beast,
Yeah.
and, I don't know why, I just really don't.
Okay.
I don't have any logical explanation for you, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. All right. So I want to talk about because there's an article that you wrote called "Stop Guesting and Hoping: How to Turn Interviews into Real Results" on Pod News.
Mm,
How did that come about? I look at Pod News every day.
so do I.
Okay.
I love it. You'll actually, yeah, I read it every week. I'm actually part of the Professional Podcasters Association.
Mhm.
So it's an association for those that are working within the industry, and they partner with Pod News, and yeah, so I was able to get an article to submit for that, which was awesome.
All right, I know I'm going off subject here, but I think and that's really basically for host, right? The Podcast Professional Association? Not for guests.
Anyone.
Oh, really?
So anyone in the podcasting industry that serves podcasters, I forget what their like the nitty gritty is, but
Mhm.
yeah.
How long you been with them?
Hmm. Less than a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the only reason I think I remember when they started up, I don't think they've been around that long. I wanna
No.
say
Couple of years maybe at the
yeah,
most. Couple of years.
but I remember getting emails from them, and of course, my first take was, "Okay, this is something brand new. I don't wanna dish out money." But now I know, like, I think Dave Jackson's a part of it. I mean, you
Yeah.
got a lot of top podcasters that are
Mhm.
part of it. Has it helped you as far as
Yes.
really?
I I like talking shop with other people in the industry,
Mhm.
and so you're able to, in a safe place, like, spitball a couple of ideas, "What do you think of this?" And it's like, there's so many areas of the podcasting world,
Yeah,
right? And I'm not an expert on all of them, nor do I wish to be. And so you get to hear behind the scenes stuff and what's trending and what's happening and what's going on, like, boots on the ground kind of a
right.
thing in producing, in the advertising, in monetizing, in like in all these different elements that I don't necessarily see every day, but I like to be in the know and know what's
Mhm.
going on. And just the connections and
So it's
yeah,
worth it. It's worth joining.
100%.
Good,
And it's like $250 a year, whip-de-doo.
that ain't that's nothing really. I mean, that's
Yeah,
pretty good.
no. And they do advocate, for, the podcasting industry and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
so, yeah, they're working on a ton of great things.
Oh, well, now that I asked you that, you convinced me. I think I'm gonna have to join.
There you go.
It's a good return on investment,
It really
right?
is, and they're
Eh
a great group of people, um, and for me, it's like, obviously, I'm in the business of podcasting, and
Mhm.
so why wouldn't I wanna be surrounded by other people? Because that's how you build, like, your networking and partnerships and collaborations and
Yep.
opportunities, and I had one of them on my podcast, Jen, who's the co-founder of it,
Jen,
she was on my podcast just this week.
Jen, Jen, Jen.
Jen Trepeck.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, now I know who you're talking about.
yeah, Salad with a
Oh,
Side of
wow.
Fries is her podcast.
You also had actually one of my mentors on. He doesn't realize he's one of my mentors.
Mm,
There's when it comes to podcasting, there's really 3 mentors that I have. Yeah, and I say mentors because I learned a lot from listening to them. Alex is one, San Filippo. Uh, Dave Jackson's another one, and I always want to say Daniel Day-Lewis, but that's the actor.
yes,
You Daniel, which is
Jay.
yeah, Daniel J. Lewis. But you recently had him on too, did you?
I did, yeah, talking about, podcast engagement,
Yes.
and
Oh, I
he has a
love it.
tool, Podgagement, I think
Yep.
is his tool. Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, he's such a sweet guy, and he's in the PPA, the association as well.
I mentioned return on investment. So explain to the listeners that want to be that should be guests on podcasts, especially if they're an entrepreneur or in a business or even a higher up in the business, how good a return on investment is on being a guest on a podcast.
When done right, yes. That's why so many guests right now are so frustrated and they wanna give up because they're like, "Oh, I've done all these shows, I've done 50 shows, and I've gotten nothing out of it." And so they blame podcast guesting, and they're like, "Nope, that strategy doesn't work." And so that's why I'm just like, chomping at the bit to, like, educate them, to be like, "No, don't give up." Because it does create the networking, right? And the
Mhm.
collaborations and the partnerships that you can do from guesting.
Right.
You know what I mean? The and then also it gives you content for your website, for Google, directing traffic to your website and promoting yourself in a way that boosts your authority and credibility and attracts leads and clients. I mean, one of my clients, just from literally one YouTube short that she did, um, someone saw it, it just tickled them right at the right moment, and they booked a call and they became a high paying client. And
Wow.
so I know everyone's like, oh, social media, social media. Yes, you're not going to get leads and clients from every single social media post, but when you're consistent with the right message and the right call to action,
Mhm.
yes, you can. Sorry, I went off on a tangent. So, the repurposing is such a huge element, and as I mentioned earlier, you can even use it to promote webinars and
Mhm.
campaigns that you're doing, but it gets you in front of more people faster, and it gets you in front of the right audience.
Yeah.
Again, when it's done right and you're on the right shows, you have to have strategy in all the different parts of guesting. And then with the conversation, again, making sure that your conversation is a bridge to profits. You want to make sure you've got a billboard ready topic, you've got your interview GPS, you've got well laid out talking points that differentiates you. You've got story sound bites because stories sell, facts tell,
Right.
and you want to make sure that you have a call to action. You, the listeners need a next step to take
Right.
that makes sense, and they have a piece of what they've learned in the episode, and then what's the next step that they're dying to
Mhm.
have? Oh my god, yes, I need that. And there's again ways to make those call to actions and ways to share it. So there's all those pieces of strategy. I mean, what other strategy will give you content, authority, leads, clients, visibility opportunities, and collaboration opportunities and referrals? Like,
Mhm.
none.
With the repurposing and posting on social media, and I've seen a lot of guests do this. They'll go on a podcast and they'll post the reels or whatever. It's like they do it real heavy for like a couple days, and then all of a sudden it's like they forget about it.
Mhm.
They don't post it anymore. How often should let's say they go on a podcast and then they don't go on another podcast for, let's say, 3 months. How often should they post between that time? Because, I mean, let's face it, like an hour show, there's a lot of reels you can get from that.
Yes. It depends what you're doing. Like for me, I've got my own podcast.
Right.
And so because I am doing more guesting, I actually change the cadence to every 2 weeks
Mm,
so that I have the right marketing bandwidth to showcase the shows that I'm guesting on.
okay.
But I'm not guesting on so many shows
Uh,
that I'm like, I can't keep up and do them justice. But if you don't have a podcast and you are guesting, like, have enough so that you have a consistent drip of content.
make it
But
your
if
own
you
podcast in a way.
yeah, like, I mean, if you do have gaps, because it does happen, you can't
Mhm.
control when they go live. One, when, they do go live, let the host know, "I will share this now, but I'm going to repurpose it and make more content, but I can't share that for another few weeks because of what I have going on in my marketing
Right.
strategy." And they'll understand. And so that way, at least they're not feeling like, you're left them high and dry.
Mhm.
Um, and then don't feel like oh my God, I have to get all of this out tomorrow. Like you don't. So just like take a breather. And then the other point is if you do have these big gaps, think about the shows that you have guested on So let's say, for instance, we've talked about a lot of things today. Let's say I'm just talking about the interview GPS. I could
Mhm.
easily do a 3-minute video, 4-minute video on just that one tiny piece, put that in YouTube, create a couple of reels from it, and that'll fill a gap. And I'm not creating something from scratch. I'm not, sure, it's a new video that I'm putting out, but it's not old content. I'm
Right.
just reframing it, dishing it out in a different way. So kind of like think outside the box. I've even created a carousel from an episode I guested on. And then with that carousel, I think it was like, I don't know, 8 reasons, blah, blah, blah. I don't remember.
Right.
Um, and then I did a video on 8 reasons to blah, blah, blah. And so I actually used that carousel to create a script for a video, put that video in YouTube, and then created like other little reels from it. No
Brilliant.
one knows it's all from the same. No
Yeah.
one knows.
Yeah, but I mean, that's all part of repurposing.
Yeah.
Something else you said there that eh, do you feel that there are some people that guest too many times on too many shows? In a short period of time, I should say.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
That to me is where they feel like it's all on the host.
Mhm.
It's all me. I'm tapping into their audience. They're gonna get me all of this exposure. I don't have to do a thing.
It's
They're
almost
not
like an
thinking
ego
about it.
thing.
What's that?
Almost like an ego thing
I
in a
think they
way.
just, yeah, a little bit, or like what they can get out of it. I don't
Yeah.
think they're not thinking about it in a holistic way, and they're not
Mhm.
thinking about it on all the strategies involved. They're not thinking about the content. They're not thinking about how to leverage it. And they're not thinking about the relationship necessarily with the host.
Right.
And they just feel like being on the show is like the one and done thing. Whereas, like, you don't have to be on 100 shows when you have just released your new book. I mean, you could, but I'm like, ooh, that's a lot.
You gotta burn
How
yourself
about
out.
Yeah. How about being very strategic and specific about what kinds of shows that you're
Yes.
on and really leveraging it and building on those relationships that you have with those people?
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of guests miss that. They'll get
Yeah.
on any and it goes both ways. They'll get on any
Yeah.
podcast they can and host, even if a podcast has been hosted for a long time, will grab whatever guest they can. You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm sure you see it as a host. I'm sure you get hundreds of emails all the
Oh,
time
yeah.
from people that want to come on. It's like,
I
okay,
get pitches from fertility,
uh,
like real estate investing, um, like, I'm
oh
like,
my
"What?
god. Yeah.
You even look at my show?" So
It's
many.
it's crazy. It's of course, I hate it when they come through, there's no link. There's
No.
nothing, and if it comes from a Gmail address, delete.
Mm, I don't like that either. They're just
Yeah.
like, "Shh,
Yeah.
getting
I
them out."
did for
Don't
those
get
of
me
you
started.
listening that did not see, Lindsay was just making it rain, making the money rain.
Yeah, so they're, like, just whipping out the pitches left, right, and center. It's like, "No."
Alright, so before actually, something very important. Tell everybody how they can find you so they can use your services.
Yeah, they can go to smoothbusinesspodcasting.com. And if they want a more in-depth guide on how to craft conversations that convert, they can go to leverageyourpodcast.com/clients. And that is going from crickets to clients, 5 shifts for podcast guest interviews to turn them into real results. Sometimes that mindset shift and not realizing the things that you're doing that are leaving money on the table, And then once you understand it, it's like, ah. And then you can be more strategic and get better results.
All right, wait a minute. I'm lost. You said smoothbusinesspodcast.com?
Podcasting, yep, .com is the main website.
Okay, because I'm on smoothbusinessgrowth.com.
It redirects.
I knew that. I was just testing you,
Okay.
seeing you passed.
So many URLs. But to get the guide, they can go to leverageyourpodcast.com/clients though to get that guide.
So before I get to my last question, is there anything you would like to add? I could talk to you for another hour or two, but let's leave that for another
It is my
episode.
favorite topic.
Oh, mine too. And it's funny because I don't talk to other podcasters a lot, but I love talking about podcasting because I used to get people calling me all the time, and I still do. They're like, "Hey, Rich, we want to start a podcast. Will you help us?" I find if I start talking to other podcasters that we could talk about, and they'll hopefully listen and learn that way, or do what I did. Listen to these other podcasts about podcasting. That way, you're going to learn. I forgot where I was going with this already. My God, see, there goes that squirrel.
Yeah, I can't
Holy,
help you there.
I know it's God. All right. So, anyways, for my last question. Oh no, that's I asked you if there was anything that you wanted to add before I asked the last question.
There you go. See, you came back.
This is what I get for getting
Saved
up too
yourself.
early. Thank God for editing. Jeez.
I would just for guests is just think about every little piece, every asset of your podcast guesting strategy. How can you make it more intentional and make sure that it's leading to your offers in a non-salesy way?
All right, this is going to be interesting. Because what I have my guests pick a number between 1 and 100, which is going to determine the last question that I ask.
Oh my.
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
But here's the wild thing about this. I'm going to say probably 98% of the questions that have been picked somehow or another align with what we've been talking about.
Ooh.
Yeah, so this is going to be interesting. Yeah, this is going to be interesting if it does. So pick a number between 1 and 100.
I will say 24.
Well, ooh, okay. Why 24?
I was going to say 4, and then I'm like, everyone always picks between 1 and 10. So maybe I should do 24.
This, you know what? I think this aligns.
But now I'm curious what 4 was.
All right. Hold on. Now I'm going to go to 4. Let me see 4.
Which one's better?
You know what? I'll ask them both.
Okay.
All right. So number 4 first.
Uh-huh.
What's a lesson you learned the hard way that you wish you could have learned more easily?
Systems and processes. I grew my business too fast and like things were slipping through the cracks. I was burnt out, burning the candles at both ends. And it's like you need to build the systems before the growth so that you don't crash and burn.
Wow. Okay. So 24 then.
Okay.
I think this aligns with it. We talked about this in the green room a little bit about, education, especially how this is my education since I dropped out of high school.
Yeah.
This is how I'm learning. So what's something you've come to appreciate more as you've gotten older?
Ooh. People's energy. Like you feel energy from people, right? Even though it's even though you're on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And also managing my own energy on what's emanating off of me. Like when you have a bad day or you're stressed out, like don't hop on a podcast episode, walk in nature for 5 seconds, pet the dog for 5 seconds and like just recenter. But just other people and like the great conversations and like, I don't know, just feeling the authenticity of people, the warmth of people, givingness, and just that connection and just like feeding off of another person's energy. I shied away from that before, and I was like more like all business. But now I'm like, that's just like the best part of the day.
Yeah. I was the same way. I mean, believe it or not, I was shy, and then, throughout my years, I've learned to talk to people. Let me rephrase that. I've learned to talk with people,
Mm,
not talk to them. I've learned to talk with people and get away from the negative stuff
mhm,
and just stay more positive.
mhm.
I can't even tell you the last time I watched the news. I don't want to.
I don't like it either. My dad
Yeah.
yells at me for it. "It's
It
irresponsible to watch it, not watch this." I'm like, "No, it'll give me nightmares."
it does. Well, I don't know about nightmares, but it will give you bad dreams
I
because if there's
know, I don't like that.
it's they say the same thing like if you're on your phone or computer, if there's something negative that you watched, it just stays in your mind. If I could just convince my daughter about
Mhm.
that. Lindsay, I want to thank you so much.
This was so fun.
I had a blast, and like I said, you have to come on again because I would love to talk to you about the as far as the podcast host goes
Mm,
and the other services that you offer because there's other services that you offer that I know we could talk about, the podcast services. So the door's open. Whenever you're ready, just let
hey,
me know.
yeah, I'm in. I'm in like
Sounds good.
10.
Lindsay, thanks so much.
All right, we'll see you folks. Thank